Hello, and welcome back to Monday's version of Let's Talk Chicago Bears. Of course, I'm pretty sure none of you really want to talk about the Bears game too much yesterday, but you know what? We're going to anyways, because that's what I do. So, as we all know, the Bears lost 27-10. And I'm going to tell you why the Bears lost. Okay, we're going to go over that today. And but I want to say one thing: it's not the end of the world. It's one game, and this game just shows you how young these Bears are. They really are. At the first game, you know what, was great, and the weather probably had a lot to do with it. But the fact is, we have a young team, but there was some bad plays also yesterday, so we're going to talk about that. So let's get down to it. So the Bears, this will give you an idea. So the Bears, Fields only passed for 48 yards. Rodgers passed for 211. The Bears rushed for 180 yards, which was great, but the bad part was our defense gave up 203 yards rushing to Green Bay. That is very bad. Remember my little sign from last year? So I don't say that word too much. So that was bad. The Bears only had 11 first downs, 11 opposed to Green Bay's 26 first downs. And both teams had 3 sacks each. So that's just some stats I'm giving you. So now I'm going to give you the dirt on why the Bears lost this game. First of all, my top 3 things you have to do to either have a chance to win the game or win the game. Bears lost all 3 of them. And if you watch me regularly, you know what they are. We're going to start with the penalties. Because the first play of the game, the Bears had a penalty. The very first play. I knew right then and there, it's not going to be a good night. So the Bears didn't have a zillion penalties, but they had more than 5. And you know my rule, 5 or less. They had 7 penalties for 50 yards. Green Bay only had 3 penalties. So we didn't win that battle. They lost the time of possession, which I always preach is so important. We only had the ball 22 minutes and 45 seconds. Green Bay had it over 37 minutes. Didn't win that one. And then my third thing is turnovers. Now the Bears got 1, but so did Green Bay. So that's a tie, which I consider a loss because they just I wish we would have had more turnovers. That's all I'm going to say. But so they really didn't win the top 3 things. They lost all 3 of them, and that is huge. And the defense, here's another reason. The 4th reason we lost that game is the defense couldn't stop the run for anything. There were so many missed tackles. They were terrible. For cripe's sake, I'm 64. I'm overweight. I'm out of shape. Kind of. I think I could have run on the Bears defense last night. Seriously. And I cannot run very well. So that don't say much, but the defense really looked bad. I mean, really, really, really. It wasn't all youth, but when it came to passing, our cornerbacks, their youth really showed up last night. They just did not play well. So we've got to really work on that. That you can see really the youth turned up yesterday on the defense. But I got to tell you, that wasn't the only thing. There was missed tackles. I was not impressed with Roquan Smith last night at all. If you look on paper, it looks like he had a lot of tackles. Well, yeah, but he missed his first assignment and then went and joined wherever the play was or whatever it was. So it may look like he had a good game on paper, but he did not. I'm not impressed. And now, more than ever, I'm glad the Bears did not give him a big contract because I want to see what this kid's got. I like him, but I just don't think he should be the highest paid or all guaranteed. That's what I think he wanted, was all guaranteed money, and I just don't think so. I like him, but he's got a lot more to prove. And last night's game did not go in his defense for having a big contract. I'm just saying, Roquan, you better step up your game, because that is not going to get you in a big game like that. That's not going to get you a big contract. Not with the Chicago Bears, at least. So the Bears gave them 203 yards between those two running backs. Terrible. I mean, my God. They were just running up in the field. It was embarrassing. I will give a shout out to two of the defensive players. 99 Gibson, he had 2 sacks, and Quinn had a sack, 94. So it was funny, right when the sack happened, right before the sack happened, I was like, where the hell has Quinn been? You didn't hear Quinn's name in the first game at all, and I hadn't heard it until then. Boom, he got that sack, and I was like, okay. So, the defense, those were the 2 bright spots of the defense, but it didn't matter because they just gave up so many yards. This is when, in my opinion, we miss Hicks. Akeem Hicks was really good at stopping the run, and I think the Bears should have signed him. I really think they could have kept him, and he wanted to retire a Bear. I think that was one they let get away, and it was a mistake. I know he's old, but so is Quinn, and I think you could have gotten him for, I don't know, maybe he was asking way too much money. I don't know, but last night showed we missed him a lot. But the defense, it was just terrible. I mean, the missed tackles. If you watch that game, you saw them. You could have probably counted on every running play 2 to 3 missed tackles. Terrible. The 5th reason we lost that game last night was the wide receivers are doing no favors for Justin Fields at all. They cannot get open. I know he's 48 yards. Of course, Komet dropped one. And that's another young man. This is Clement's 3rd year. He is our tight end. And he needs to step up. There's no excuses anymore. We really need him to step up. And I'd like to see that because I'm a little disappointed in Clement too. But the wide receivers, except for Mr. Mooney, they only threw to him once. And Justin missed him. And he was open. And but the rest of the receivers are not getting open, clearly. And the offensive line isn't good enough to hold up that these guys can get open so Justin can throw to them. The offensive line did a fairly good job with helping the running backs, obviously. We had 180 yards. And I think that Montgomery had 126 of those himself. And then Herbert had... Gosh, he might have had like 40, and then Justin had some too. But the wide receivers, they have really got to work on that. Clearly, it's a problem because they're not getting open. So Justin has nowhere, and by the time they get open, the line is collapsed, and he's running for his life. So the youth and inexperience with our receivers showed up big time last night too. Big time. So that's a concern. That has got to be a concern for Coach Flus. I mean, and the fact that you don't have a line. If our line was better and maybe could give Justin a few more seconds, maybe he could get some balls off. But they're not good. And I can't wait for Patrick, who should be our center, to get that club off his hand that he broke. His thumb, and then he could play center, and maybe we can move guys around a little bit and get this line shored up because it is still a problem. Another reason, number 6, why we lost that game. We had 4 3-and-outs. 4. You can't have 4 3-and-outs, and the Bears only had 11 first downs. I want to say, I didn't put it down because I don't care. Fuck Green Bay. But I think Green Bay had something like 26 or 27 first downs. We had 11 and 4 3-and-outs. You cannot do that. Some of it, I don't know. I think they should have maybe stuck with the run a little bit longer. They seemed to abandon it for a while in the game, and then they came back and started running, and then Montgomery was running up and down the field. So I'm not really sure why they were doing that. They should have stepped to the running game a little bit more. So yeah, you can't have all those three and outs. You just can't, and you can't win a game getting 11 first downs. That is terrible. Really, really, really bad. And let's go with the seventh reason we lost that game. At the end of the game, well, towards the end of the game, I think what was it, like 6-7 minutes we had when the Bears drove down the field, and it was 4th and inches, which that was a touchdown. I'm sorry, it was a freaking touchdown, but they called it a stop, and it wasn't conclusive enough, so they couldn't overturn it. But it was a touchdown. Again, Green Bay gets all the breaks with the refs. It just happens every freaking time we play them. Some play is major, and it always goes in their favor, and it shouldn't. And that was a touchdown. But it should never have come to that. It should never, I'm sorry, somebody was trying to call me. It should never, ever, ever have come to that. I don't know what my phone's doing here. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, distracted. I apologize. So the play, it was 4th and inches, 4th down. We could have gone up 17-24, but our offensive coordinator pulls a Nagy move and has Justin Fields sneaking it in from the shotgun. What the hell was that about? He should have lined Justin Fields up under center. He should have had Montgomery in there at the running back, and he should have put our fullback in there. Justin could have just went forward, and the running back and the fullback could have pushed Justin in, for Christ's sake, and it would have been an easy touchdown. He could have jumped over. But from the shotgun? Are you kidding me? My 5-month-old grandson could have figured that out was a bad play. So that's on the coaches. Because if that game, the Bears score that touchdown, they're losing by 7 points. And our defense started to stop the Green Bay Packers. They were holding them there for a while in that fourth quarter. So it was like, had they gotten that, it would have been 17-24. The defense would have been picked up. They would have been juiced. They would have been jacked. They would have gone out there and gone after him. But no, they were defeated because it was a stupid-ass call on the Bears coaching staff. And that goes right up to Coach Flus. You disappointed me. His first time so far, you and the offensive coordinator, bad call. And we all know it. And, yes, it was a touchdown, but I blame the coaches more for the bad call because it shouldn't have come to relying on the refs to get us a touchdown that we clearly had. It shouldn't rely on them. We should have made it clear. Okay? That's just all I'm saying, man. Pissed me off. I hate when they do that. I was having a Nagy flashback a couple times. They threw behind the line of scrimmage once, and I said to my son, oh my God, I'm having a Nagy flashback. This is terrible. It's like the 70s and 80s flashbacks from the drugs. Excuse me. And the eighth and last reason why the Bears lost that game is because that big jerk, Chris Collinsworth, was calling the game, and he's such an asshole. I cannot stand him. And I've always said he does not like the Bears because when he played, he was a wide receiver for Cincinnati, for sure. I'm not sure any other team, and the Bears used to beat the hell out of him. I mean, they beat on him, and he has never forgotten that. So he holds it against the Bears. But to show you what an asshole he is, if you stay to the end of the game, they were doing something. Oh, they were showing. I'm not really sure why they were doing this. So they showed, there's a clock right outside Lambeau Field, and it said 10:20. And then the clock inside the stadium said 10:05, I believe. I'm not really sure what the point was to showing that and making that. And then Chris Collinsworth says, and Elizabeth Starks was the sideline reporter last night, he says, and he circled it or something, and he circled 5 minutes to 10. And he said, that's Elizabeth's time. And she goes, what is that supposed to mean? And he's like, she goes, I'm never late and never. And she goes, and you know what? That was very rude. And I thought, good for you, Elizabeth. You know what, Chris Collinsworth, if you're trying to be funny, you're not. You're not a fucking comedian. You're not even a good commentator. And you weren't that good of a wide receiver. So, F off. And she called him it. And then you know what he said? He goes, oh, that must be the other Chris Collinsworth that said that. Shut up. I mean, seriously, shut up, Collinsworth. Do you want to smack the guy? And the other thing is, I just don't want the Bears playing on night games. They don't fare well. So I gave you some ideas about why the Bears lost. And I think you're going to pretty much agree with all of them because it's true. And my top three things you have to do to win, they did not win. The turnover was equal, but I consider that a loss because they should have had more than Green Bay for a win, and they didn't. So, and at the end of the day, our inexperience and our youth showed up. It really did. It showed that we're not there yet. But I think each week they're going to get better and better because I see some talent there. There's flashes of talent. Gordon, number 6, had a good knockdown last night on a pass that was headed to a receiver, which would have scored a touchdown, but he stopped it. But then he gives up a ton the next couple times. So if Coach Flus can get these guys learning from their mistakes and getting and moving forward, maybe we can, this will be okay. I know it will. It's one game. We're 1-1. Okay, let's everybody pump the brakes. Yes, we wanted to win that game. And when we see them in December in Soldier Field, we're going to beat their ass. You heard it here. But now this is a big learning experience. Now this is where the new coaches really will see what they've got when they come out next week. Okay, so the coaches have really got to work with these guys, and again, the youth and experience showed up, so it's there, So, but don't be given, let's not be like, oh, they suck and suck. We know this is a rebuild year, and we know we aren't going to the Super Bowl. I want to be at least 500. And what I wanted about last night's game is, of course, I would have loved to win, but I wanted us to be in it. And if they had scored that last touchdown, I honestly think we could have put in a little fear in their minds that maybe we could come back and win that game, and it could have changed some things. But it didn't. Okay, whatever. So I've said that. So, and again, I always give my turf award, whether the Bears win or lose, I'm going to do it. Because we got to have a bright side. And actually, it's an easy one. I'm sure you're all saying it because he's the only one that showed up to play last night. Number 32, David Montgomery, who had 122, I said 126, 122 yards rushing. And he earned every one of those by himself. So, David, you win Week 2 Turf Award because you totally deserve this. You were running your ass off, and you were doing a great job. And actually, on the goal line, 4th and inches, why didn't they give it to David Montgomery? But we won't beat that one. So, David, you win Week 2 Turf of the Player Award, which means you are one tough hombre, and you are. So that's the breakdown. I mean, what are we going to do, guys? You know what? They just didn't play well, period. And what I said, you think about everything I said because it's the truth. And what would really, really help this team is a bounce-back win on Sunday. Now, we're at home in Soldier Field. We're playing Texas. I know they haven't won. I believe they are they have a tie for sure. I know that. So I think they're one loss and one tie, something like that. I'm not sure, but they did not win yesterday. I'm pretty sure they didn't. No, they didn't. But we're playing them next week. Now they haven't been scoring a lot of points. Although, did they score? Yeah, you know what they did on the first week, but they're not super, super good, but they got a pretty good defense. And Lovie Smith, remember Lovie? Of course, he looks like Santa with that white beard of his. he's going to have these guys playing. He's going to have these guys come into play on Sunday. So the Bears team has got to brush off that game last night. Forget about it. Stand up, work hard this week in practice, and come out on Sunday and show these fans and us fans all over that they can get knocked down, but they can get back up again. So that's what, like I said, it'll really see how good the coaches are, how much influence they have on them after that loss, because it's huge to win. We need to win on Sunday. So on Friday's show, we will go through all the stats of Bears, Texas, and I'll do all that. So I'm not going to beat a dead horse now about that. But so it was a rough night, no doubt about it. We have, gosh, at least 2 more night games, if not 3, I want to say. Well, I know there's a Thursday night game, and there's a Monday night game we're on. So that's 2, and I think there was a Sunday night game again. I don't know why they keep putting the Bears on. Just leave us alone and let us play during the day. Please. Please, NFL schedulers for next year. All right, guys. That's it. Let's move on. Don't be like abandoning ship. It's one game. We're 1-1. We could be 0-2. So that's all I'm saying. All right. That's all this lady is saying. So I love you guys. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Oh yeah, I gotta do this a little. I know she won't watch today, but my sister, who I love to death, who's like one of my best buddies in the whole world, actually watched my show on Friday, first time in 3 seasons. I almost fell off the chair when she told me that. I know. I wish she'd watch this show, because I'm going to give her a shout out and say, Kathy, I love you, man. Give me another chance. All right, guys, I love you. And as always, be kind to each other. Let's stick together. Smile at people. Put a smile on your face. Help somebody out if they look like they need it. You never know what's going on in their lives, as I tell you. And the most important is be kind. There's just no need to be an asshole or any of that. Just be kind to people. We're in this together. And, it's going to be a rough rest of the year. All the things that are going on, which I don't get political on the show, but nothing's really going to change through this year. So let's just stick together, hope our Bears win more, and love one another. All right? That's all I ask. That's all this little woman asks. Yes, I know I am a woman, even though I have my dad's face. Not fair, but what are you going to do? Okay. Love you guys. Thanks for watching. As always, I really appreciate you guys tuning me in for however I blab on and on. And I'll see you Friday to go over the Texas Bears game for next Sunday. And as always, keep on rocking and rolling from Vegas, baby. See you later.